Hello, so this is my submission for CFT2119. My name is Alex Johansson, and this is my project. So what I'm going to do first is I'm just going to show the basic player movement. So you can see very subtly here, if you just take a look at the bottom of the legs, you can see the animation playing as I move left and right, and as my character walks. I'm currently holding a pistol. Characters are kind of very basic. And I have two kind of states for that. If I just shoot now, you can see it scatters the shot. If I hold down, I'll get more of a directed shot. The way I did that was if kind of a certain key is held down, in this case down, change the what kind of the behavior of the bullet. And the way I did that was with an attribute. So what it would do is it'd keep track of whether the player was down or was aiming or not. If it was true, then it would shoot in a straight line. If not, it would spray. You'll find that that's quite consistent across the different weapon types that I've created. You'll also notice that there's a little blue character that's following me around. That is the camera. I locked it to that character to kind of give more of a dynamic feel to the camera. And yeah, it also does a couple of other things that you'll see in a little bit. So what I'm going to do first is just hop down here. If I bump into this little help panel, it displays at the bottom of the screen some instructions. The way I did that was I created an attribute called dialogue, and I basically just fed it text and then displayed that to the screen. So for example, if I bump into something or if I equip a new weapon, it'll update that text at the bottom and say something new or different. As you can also see, I've implemented a jump, and even if I spam the jump key, I can't jump any more than if I'm in the air. It'll stop me from jumping infinitely. I've got a door here. If I run up to it, it'll open. There's another help panel, and after a certain amount of time you'll see the door has actually closed after me. And yeah, I'll just kind of jump across to here, and you can see the enemies. There's just some examples I've got here. The enemies I've got here are kind of been deactivated for kind of showing you what I've put together. I've got three inactive enemies and one active enemy. You can see one that, like the camera, is actually pursuing me actively. The way I did that was took the player's coordinates and I basically told it to take the value of its coordinates and deduct the player's position off of it, and that gave me the direction for it to travel in. And I applied that as a force, and you get this kind of really nice kind of homing effect of wherever I go, it will follow me. Also, you'll see that my health can get damaged by bumping into these guys. I had a very subtle flash effect to indicate I'm taking damage, and you can see up in the top left-hand corner that my life bar is going down, which I've done with text just because I thought I'd experiment with it. And then if I move away from these enemies that are kind of moving around, you'll see that the blue character with this kind of blue glow around it every 10 seconds will kind of increase my health by 1. You'll see a blue tint to my character when that happens. Where we're standing as well, I'm on a jump pad. So if I hop on this jump pad and I'm in collision with it and then push up, I'll jump. And yeah, now you can see I'm back at full health. Let's go down to the bottom and let's grab ourselves a decent weapon to be able to fight them with. So let's nip in here. So I've got some weapon caches that if I bump into, it'll choose a random number between 1 and 3. That'll be an attribute, which is going to set the player's weapon type. So if I bump into that, I've now got an Uzi. So if whilst before it, I had to push each time I wanted to shoot, like that. Now if I hold it, whoops, I've run out of ammo. That's another thing I've implemented. I've got an ammo system that if you run out of ammo, you'll have to wait a couple of seconds for it to reload. But you can see that I've got this kind of repeated spray. The way I did that was with an attribute as well. That was essentially saying, if this is true, you can fire, but otherwise you can't, and only allow it to happen every half a second or so. Now I've also got the shotgun equipped, which is quite lucky, and yeah, this basically uses a loop to be able to shoot a bunch of, like a spray of bullets. And also, as with the pistol, depending on how, whether I'm aiming or not, it'll refine the actual arc. I'll probably need to move somewhere a little bit more open to be able to see that in action. So let me just reload. So yeah, what I'll do, I've got to be reasonably quick with this because, yeah, what I'm going to do is I'm going to kill these enemies here, and what you should see happen is, if you look here, I've got this little thing that's popping up and down. This is essentially going to spawn new enemies in once these 3 have been killed. So you can see that one pop up there. So yeah, what I have is a maximum enemy counter, but unless they're if it's greater than a certain number, it can't spawn any more enemies. So I'm gonna kill that last enemy. I can't reach these, but they can't reach me. And yeah, I'm just gonna move to the end of the level. Now, you won't have been able to see it before, but the lift is actually now active. Now, that is only active if I actually destroy the computer, which was down here. So yeah, I'm going to nip onto the end of the level and see how far I can get in the time I have. Because whilst my concept, I kind of covered the basics, I wanted to kind of explore a little bit further, and so I created some extra levels and things to kind of add some extra features as well. So this lift, for example, I made it kind of rise up to the location that I wanted, and then when it reaches that location, it is instructed to kill itself after it moves off screen, and usually it plays a noise, but I've turned that off, and when it reaches its location, it kind of fades that noise down to nothing. So you can see the enemies in kind of a bit more of a dynamic environment, all kind of pursuing me quite aggressively, and in turn my health being reduced. Now, I actually created the enemies. I kind of made a modification to the enemies because originally they were the same angle as the thing following me. There's also that nice little crashing glass right there. The way I did that was I made it that when I collide with it, it uses a loop to create a bunch of kind of shattering glass. But yeah, anyway, yeah, the enemies, I locked them to 45-degree angle, so they could actually get around objects a little bit easier, so they can kind of, and they can move around each other easier. And there's also a nice little side effect of them actually being able to kind of shunt you off, platforms and things like that, and get underneath you, which makes them quite aggressive actually. So you can see that that's now activated that lift. Now when I hop on it, you can also see if I hop off it that it actually slows down and comes back to the level. So it will actually kind of stop rising if I'm not on it. Yeah, so then that's kind of the end of that level. There was a couple of others that I built. There was a boss level that I also put together. What I might do is skip to that, depending on how much time I have left. Yeah, so I'll just nip through this section here. It's pretty much more of the same at this point. I'll just very kind of speed run this level, just to get through it nice and quick so we can see the end. So it's kind of testing it in a different ways, so having jump pads that you got to, you use to navigate the level. Oh, wait. Notice it's starting to get progressively more and more difficult. Oh. So yeah, I'm making this look very easy, but at least you've got the video for reference if you find it too difficult to use. In this level, what I wanted to do was try something a bit different. The jump pads that I built for the game, they actually have two animations. When they're inactive, their animation switches to something without any collision on, so the launch pad event can't happen. The collision between the player and the launch pad. So what you've got to do is navigate to the bottom of this level, and that essentially activates this computer, which switches the power on. And yeah, you can then use the jump pads to get back to the top of the level, with all these enemies descending down from the top, which gets quite chaotic. So I'll quickly scamper through this level. I also added some kind of nice little kind of chunks of code for the enemies that help them navigate the environment. If they bump into each other, there's a probability that they'll repel from one another. And the reason I did that was in case they all got stuck on one spot, they can kind of, it sends them in the opposite direction of the player, so kind of, as I said, repels their position. And the same with doors as well. There's a 1 in 10 chance of that happening. Okay, so this final level, this is the boss, essentially, for the game, and the little character that's been following you around turns out to be the villain. And it has 3 different kind of attack modes. The first one is a homing missile that it kind of sends after you. The second is a kind of a spray attack that it kind of shoots out in random directions. And the third one is it sends a swarm of enemies at you, for example. And yeah, you've just got to try and survive and take it out, and if you can get its health bar, which you can see displayed above it, low enough, you can win. But obviously, it's kind of trying to not die and fall off. Falling off will kill you. It's kind of consistent throughout the whole game as well. And yeah, I originally, when I was testing it, found that it was a bit difficult to actually target the enemies, so I used the region that I originally had with the enemy to kind of make it a bit easier to hit him, rather than just the one dot in the middle. So if I shoot it enough, the health bar runs down to 0 and I get this message saying the mission's been completed. And that takes me back to the start. And that kind of wraps up my video on my demo. If you have any other kind of things you want to check, you can always open up the code and have a look at the references in the comments I've written in my code. Hope you found it useful, and thank you for taking the time to look at it.